Hey everybody, it's Harv. Let's get into Chapter 2, the European Renaissance. The Renaissance, ladies and gentlemen, is one of my favorite topics of the school year because the art is incredible, and this movement and this era in Europe really represents, ladies and gentlemen, the change that we're going to see. This is the start of our class. And this is where we start to see some really big changes for Europe. So let's get right into it. Okay. In this chapter, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna talk about so many different things. In this chapter 2 is divided up into two main kind of components. We have the Renaissance, and within the Renaissance, we're gonna talk about the Italian Renaissance, humanism, the Northern Renaissance, art, and the Age of Exploration. But we're first starting with the Renaissance. Okay. So in this Renaissance kind of component of the chapter, we're going to be talking about how the Italian Renaissance started, the Italian city-states, the intellectual history with humanism, and the politics that's going to be going on. So there's a lot of different components that we're going to be discussing within the Renaissance. So let's get into it. Okay. So what was this Renaissance? Okay, and what does Renaissance mean? Well, Renaissance is French for rebirth. And the Renaissance, ladies and gentlemen, and the way I want you to think about it in your minds is this is going to be Europe's transition from medieval Europe to a modern Europe. And this is where we start to see this big transition. We're going to see this transition politically, socially, economically, but in the Renaissance, ladies and gentlemen, intellectually. If people start to think differently, we're going to see that those ways of thinking differently translate into economic, society, politics, all kinds of different components within Europe. Okay, but this is Europe's transition to modernity, a modern Europe. Really important for us to know that. Let's make sure we have that in our notes. Okay, it starts in Italy. All right, it will. The Italian Renaissance is going to end when we see Charles V. Okay. Also, some countries know him as Charles I, Charles V. We'll just talk about Charles V a lot. Okay. The Italian Renaissance will end when Charles V conquers Rome. Okay. We'll see the Renaissance spread to Northern Europe, the Northern Renaissance. Okay, after the Italian Renaissance in like the 1400s, 1500s. Okay, and then slowly we'll see the Renaissance kind of die out. In England in the 1600s, okay, 17th century. We'll discuss all that, and I'll kind of tell you the chronology that we need to know. But this is kind of just a rough chronology of the Italian Renaissance. Okay, so what happens in this Italian Renaissance? Well, this is a time of transition. We are going to see feudalism, the power of the Catholic Church, that decentralized style of society start to go away, and there's some massive changes that are going to be going on in Europe, okay? Increased national consciousness. We're going to start to see some of the modern nation states that we know today form. We're going to see monarchs consolidate power, and we're going to start to see people, see themselves as, French, English, as opposed to, someone from France seeing themselves as, part of Burgundy. No, we're going to start to see this national identity, nationalism, okay? And that's something that we will talk about in more depth a little bit later. Like I said before, increased political centralization. We're going to start to see monarchs consolidate power around themselves, okay? We saw that in the 100 Years' War with those professional armies being loyal to a monarch. We're going to start to see this increased political centralization, right? That's very different from feudalism where we saw, remember, the politics be very decentralized, where nobles had a lot of power and a lot of influence. That's going away. Remember, in the Black Death, 100 Years' War, right? And during the late Middle Ages, we saw the nobles really losing a lot of power. Okay, we are going to see a different economy start to rise. Okay, we're starting to see the end of this feudal economy. Okay, we're going to start to see capitalism. We're going to start to see a big ideology called mercantilism arise, and that's something we'll talk about in the next couple chapters. I'm just kind of foreshadowing a lot of this, trying to get everyone to some vocabulary that we need to be aware of. All right, but we're going to see the end of that feudalistic economic style. Okay, we're going to start to see with the Age of Exploration an Atlantic economy. We're going to start to see this a huge trading economy start to come about. Okay, This is really, really, really important for us. And let's make sure we highlight number 4 in our lecture notes, okay? We are going to start to see increased secular and lay control of thought. What that means is we are starting to see different groups control education, thought, okay, language, and religion outside of the Catholic Church, okay? Lay means non-religious, okay? We're using the word lay in that context, okay? But we're starting to see, ladies and gentlemen, all right? The Catholic Church is not necessarily going to have this monopoly of control over thought, over education, over culture, language, and religion. When the Renaissance, when the Northern Renaissance starts to go off, there's no coincidence that shortly afterwards we have the Protestant Reformation, and that really splits Christianity in two between Catholic and Protestant. Okay, so this is really, really important. We are going to see the Catholic Church, which we talked about earlier, right, with the Avignon Papacy, Boniface, the Great Schism, losing power. They're going to lose more power right here, okay, by not being able to control how people think, their education. All right, so important for us. We're going to start to see new technology, new ideas, new art. The art in the Renaissance is incredible. You all will be amazed when you see it. It's I went to Italy, and when I went to France, I was in the Louvre and I saw some of these artistic pieces. They're incredible, and we're gonna spend an entire lecture going over the art. It's hard to believe. It's pretty incredible. But there's new technology, there's new art, there's new interest, and during the Renaissance, we're going to see the age of exploration, and this is going to be a huge theme within the Renaissance. You know, thinking for yourself, going out and challenging the status quo, going out and saying, there's got to be a different way. There's got to be something different. There's got to be a different way to look at this, different perspective, okay? We're going to see that. We're going to see, that be a big change within the Renaissance. People thinking differently. And if people are thinking differently, they're going to be willing to take some certain risk, and that's where we see the age of exploration, and we'll talk about that. Okay, this is huge though. One of the big changes that we're going to see within the Renaissance is a revival of some of the classics, and what I mean by the classics are Greek and Roman ideals. Europe is going to rediscover the ancient Greeks and Romans, and there's some really important themes, some really important ideas that are going to be super influential to Europeans during the Renaissance. Okay? The Renaissance, especially the Northern Renaissance, is going to be an essential cause to the religious reformation that we're going to get into in chapter 3. But the Renaissance is really going to set us up for the age of exploration. It's going to set us up for the Protestant Reformation. It's going to set us up for the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment. The Renaissance is really the foundation of the rest of this class. So this is where some huge changes are about to take place. And let's get ready and learn about them, okay? Here are some of the main themes that we need to know when you think about the Renaissance, okay? Humanism. A big change that we're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, within the Renaissance is humanism, where people are not necessarily focused on religion. They're going to start to focus on themselves, the human, okay? And this is going to lead to all types of new things. Science, people are going to be like, look at my arm. Wow, what are those blue things in my arm? Is that something that, God controls, or what's the importance of that? Let's cut open my arm and see. I'm bleeding everywhere. This is crazy. All right? People are going to start to be interested in themselves. Why do I have 5 toes? Wait, we have 5 fingers on each hand. Whoa, 5 toes, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 eyebrows. They're going to start to think about these things. Why do we have 2 eyebrows? What are eyebrows for? What are these? What are nails for? That's interesting. Okay. What are knees for? Right? People are going to start to be interested in things. Why does somebody have blonde hair over there? Well, I have brown hair, a little bit darker hair. Someone over there has black hair. People are going to be interested in the human aspect. Okay. It's really important. And that shows, ladies and gentlemen, secularization. People are not necessarily interested in going to be focused on religion, focused on God. They're going to be focused on themselves, the human aspect, humanism. Okay? That kind of relates to secularism. People are going to be thinking not necessarily as religiously during this time, but they're going to be looking at the world through a different lens, through secularism. They're going to be looking at this tree going, why is that tree green? Is that because God designed it that way? Is there going to be something else? Is there another way to look at that? Why are bees always messing around and like flying around with the flowers? Why are they always around there? Why aren't they over here in the grass? Or why aren't they over here in that tree? They're going to be interested in these things, okay? Secularism, looking at the world through a different lens, through a secular lens, through a non-religious lens. It's going to be very important for us, okay? Individualism, okay? And this leads into humanism. People are going to be looking at themselves and be noticing the individualistic differences between themselves. Man, why is that person over there so tall versus that person over there is 4'2"? Why does that person over there have blue eyes? This person over here has green eyes. This person over here has brown eyes. This person over there has one eye. People are going to be interested in their different individual characteristics, individualism. And we're going to see that, we're going to see this in their art, okay? And in their culture. All right? This also bleeds into rationalism, okay? People are going to be looking at the world through a rational lens. If you put water on that plant over there, it grows more. Does that mean that water has an effect on the plant, or is it controlled by God, or what is it? Okay? People are going to be looking at the world through a rational lens, using logic, using reason. Okay, and that's a big change. Remember, we've been talking about this in terms of the decline of the church. This is showcasing the decline of the church, controlling education, controlling thought. Okay, this is not necessarily something that the Catholic Church wants, because eventually people are going to start looking at rationalism and pushing back against the church. Okay, we're going to see that especially within the scientific revolution with Galileo. Okay, Galileo's going to be looking up saying, I don't think the earth is in the center of the universe. I think the sun is in the center of not the universe, but a solar system. And the Catholic Church is going to be like, no, you're wrong. No, because that goes against Catholic teaching. It goes against what's the geocentrism in the Bible. People, we're going to start to see this rational, this logic, reason start to be really prominent within the intellectual culture of Europe, and this starts in the Renaissance. Okay, this idea of virtue, civic responsibility, political science. We're going to start to see ideas and books about how to be a good leader, what makes a good leader, and we'll talk about Machiavelli. We'll talk about Castiglione, some of the important civic humanists who commented on some of these ideas. But they're going to be discussing what makes a good ruler, what makes a good leader. Okay, what is a good leader? And those are things that they're going to start commenting on. All right, important for us to remember that the Italian Renaissance, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be an upper class intellectual movement. It is among the wealthy, among the elite. It is not for the lower class. It is not really for the middle classes, okay? This is a very exclusive movement for an exclusive group. The Northern Renaissance will be different. Okay, we'll see that be much more inclusive. It'll be much more prominent among some of the different socioeconomic groups. But the Italian Renaissance is mainly among rich people. Okay, here's a little rough chronology of the Renaissance. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. We're going to see, it really starts to become more prominent in the 1400s. In the 1370s, it kind of starts, but it wasn't necessarily this clear movement. By the 1400s, it's going to be very prominent, and we'll see it prominent in some of the different city-states, such as Florence. Okay, the Renaissance, ladies and gentlemen, the High Renaissance is considered around 1450. That's where you have the High Renaissance, where there's kind of the peak of the Renaissance. Okay, by about the 1500s. Okay, it's going to start spreading into Northern Europe. Okay, it'll be very prominent there. All right, and it's going to last until the 16th century. It's going to last in Italy until Charles V takes over Rome. Do you need to know all that? No. Okay, just a rough chronology. I will help you with the chronology. Okay, but you don't have to memorize everything. Just have a brief idea. It starts in Italy. It's going to spread to the Northern Renaissance. Okay. spreads even up into England. All right, by about the 1600s, it starts to go away, and we're gonna see other movements start from this though. It's gonna kind of branch out into different movements: scientific revolution, Enlightenment, all kinds of stuff. Okay. All right, now what's the big change? What are we changing from? Okay, well, we talked about this in chapter 1. Feudalism. Feudalism is going to really start to go away in the Renaissance. We've started to see it go away with the Black Death, 100 Years' War, the decline of the church. But feudalism, that decentralized government, peasants being tied to land, those powerful nobles, this is what Europe was like before. And we are going to see some drastic changes within the Renaissance, starting with the Renaissance. That these systems are really going to start to break down and go away. All right. Now, are they all going to go away within the Renaissance? No. All right. But the foundations for these structures are going to really start to crumble away. Okay. For example, so some aspects of feudalism will be in France until, and I said this before in chapter 1, until 1789. It's like some of the unfair taxes that we see with the Third Estate, and you all don't need to know that just yet. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But it's not like feudalism, like when the Renaissance starts, like feudalism, all right, it's all gone. No, that's not what happens. But we're gonna see some serious aspects of feudalism start to go away. Okay, and life is gonna change. The Catholic Church. Okay, this is gonna be a big change that we're gonna see as well. Before the Renaissance, the Catholic Church dominated almost every aspect, okay, of life for Europeans: culture, education, thought, God, religion. That dominated. But with the Black Death, with the 100 Years' War, with the decline of the church, the Catholic Church has taken some serious L's, and they have lost a lot of power and lost a lot of influence, and people have lost faith in the Catholic Church. That's why we're going to see people like Martin Luther start a new type of Christianity. All right, that's going to be really important. So this is why we're going to start to see rationalism, secularism, humanism. People are going to start to look at the world differently and be like, Catholic Church, we're going to look at the world in a different way. Sorry. All right, that's not to mean that a lot of people aren't going to be religious. No. That doesn't mean that people will still be very religious. People are going to, kind of start to think for themselves a little bit and look at the world through their own eyes, as opposed to having an institution like the Catholic Church tell them how the world is. And we'll discuss this in depth a little bit later during the Renaissance. Okay, let's, ladies and gentlemen, talk about the causes of the Renaissance. Remember, cause and effect is a huge part of this class. Okay, so let's make sure we have our notes out. Let's make sure that we write these down carefully. This could be an important test question on the AP exam. We could see a question just like this. Okay, what are the causes and effects of the Renaissance? Here we go. Okay, number 1 is the Black Death. All right, it's going to help facilitate the end of feudalism. All right, it's also, ladies and gentlemen, going to help facilitate a decline of influence with the Catholic Church. Remember, the Black Death, we're going to see nobles dying, we're going to see peasants moving, peasants getting more power, but we're also going to see the Catholic Church not be able to solve the problem nor explain the problem and help solve the problem. Okay, so that's going to be a huge. The Black Death is huge for the Renaissance. Okay, it's going to fundamentally change life for Europeans. The decline of the Catholic Church, is going to have less influence in people's lives. People are going to be looking at the world in a different way now. And it's because of what's been going on with the Catholic Church, all right? The Catholic Church wasn't able to handle the Black Death. The Catholic Church was having issues with corruption. You had people like, you remember John Huss, you have people like Wycliffe influencing people to look at the world in a different way. Look at the world. The Catholic Church doesn't have sole domination of religion. This is important, ladies and gentlemen. The decline of the Catholic Church is going to have a huge impact upon how people see the world. They are losing faith in this institution. This institution, which has dominated for hundreds of years, people are finally starting to be like, you know what? I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna teach myself how to read, or I'm gonna do this. All right, this is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the decline of the Catholic Church is going to lead to the Renaissance, the Reformation, science, the Enlightenment. All right, we are going to see people start to kind of take control of their own thinking. all right, take control of how they perceive the world. Before that, the Catholic Church was telling people how to look at the world. The Catholic Church was saying, the plant over there, that's God's design. The reason why the sun is like that, that's all God's design. That's all God's creation. People are going to start to be like, is there a different way to look at that? Is there a reason why the moon shows up like this, in a crescent, and then all of a sudden it's full and then gone? Right? People are going to start to be like, look at this and wonder, is there a different explanation? And we're going to see some fundamental changes because of that. A big change that we're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, is the age of exploration. People are going to run into an entire other hemisphere of the world. And they're going to look back at the Catholic Church and say, you said that God knows everything and you know everything. How did you not know about the new world? And the Catholic Church is going to have a really hard time explaining that and reconciling that. They're going to be like, look over there, right? This is going to lead to some huge changes, ladies and gentlemen, okay? This is a big cause to the Renaissance, ladies and gentlemen. The fall of Constantinople, all right? This is huge, and we are going to see the rediscovery of ancient Greek and Roman texts, okay? Constantinople is what we know as Istanbul today. It's in Turkey. It was part of the old Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, okay? So the Roman Empire used to be this big Roman Empire all throughout Europe, okay? Parts of the Middle East. Constantinople, when we saw the original Roman Empire fall, we saw the Roman Empire get split up into the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire eventually became part of the HRE, the Holy Roman Empire. And the Eastern Roman Empire was the Byzantine Empire. A capital within the Byzantine Empire was Constantinople. Constantinople is going to fall to the Turks, okay? And become part of the Ottoman Empire. When that happened, we're going to see a lot of scholars take ancient Greek and Roman texts out of Constantinople in the hopes that they, to save them so they aren't burned, and they're going to bring them into Europe. That's going to be really important because people are going to be reading Socrates again, reading Aristotle again, Pluto again. The big thing that they're going to be learning is math again. They're going to be looking at this guy named Pythagoras go, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, that's going to be a game changer. They're going to be looking at geometry again, saying, whoa, dude, look at this, man, vertical angle, that's crazy. All right, there's going to be some huge changes with the fall of Constantinople, key for the Renaissance. 100 Years' War, all right, the rise of nationalism, centralized monarchs, right, we're going to see monarchs use the 100 Years' War to consolidate power. Professional armies, where those armies are loyal now to a king and not a whole bunch of nobles. Important for us. Okay, and this is where it's going to start. This is where it's going to all get started. This is where it's all going to go down. Okay, Italy. All right, now what do you all notice about Italy right now? Okay, let's pause and kind of take a second. Let's unpause. All right, Italy, ladies and gentlemen, is not a unified Italy during this time. It is actually comprised of a whole bunch of different city-states. This is really important, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Italy is not a unified nation. And it's not going to be unified until the 1800s with Germany, okay? But Italy has these city-states, and the city-states are important to remember, all right, for our AP exam. It is not a united Italy. Let's stop here, ladies and gentlemen, for right now, and we're going to get into kind of the Italian city-states, and in the next lecture, talk a little about humanism. Thank you so much.